April 30th, 1918. World War I is steadily coming to a close when the Cryptid, a British patrol ship, sailed just off the Belfast Lough in Ireland. The scenery was beautiful. There were blue skies, plumes of brilliant clouds, the sun was glistening off the waves, and a disabled German U-boat sat right there in the middle of the northern Atlantic. Wait, what? Yo guys, I'm the Ratman, and today we're going to be talking about the atrocity of UB-85. UB-85 was a U-boat commissioned by the German Imperial Navy on the 24th of November 1917 during World War I. It was under command of a Captain Kretsch. It could carry up to 3 officers and 31 men, and it could be loaded with 10 torpedoes. For the ones who are curious about words like I am, the word U-boat comes from the German word Unterseeboot, which means undersea boat. Unterseeboot? I don't know, man. Now, the crew of the UB-85 were picked up by the Cryptid, which is a British patrol ship that was shocked to find a non-aggressive German U-boat just vibing out in the middle of the open ocean. Because of such strange circumstances, Captain Kretsch of UB-85 was immediately interviewed once they brought the crew onto their own boat. What he had to say was on the verge of insanity. One of the first questions asked of Kretsch was why the submarine stayed on the surface despite the British patrol ship being within a clear line of sight. It turns out the submarine was damaged, but not by anything you would expect to find in warfare. It was late at night as the submarine glided beneath the waves. The batteries needed charging after a full day of usage, so, in need of air for the diesel generators, UB-85 surfaced. Kretsch went on deck with some of his officers to get some fresh air, admire the stars, and just take a couple smokes, when a sudden surge rocked the ship. Suddenly, the starboard bow side of the ship was pulled down towards the water. Every man looked on in confusion, trying to figure out what on God's green earth could be pulling a U-boat into the water like that. Out of the darkness, a monstrous creature climbed from the waves and onto UB-85. Every man watching began to fire their sidearm at this demonic creature, but no matter how full of lead they pumped it, it would not let go of the front gun mount. The beast had large eyes set in a horned skull. Its head was small, but its teeth were large, and they could be seen glistening in the moonlight. It was so gargantuan that it easily rocked the U-boat, causing the starboard side to nearly sink beneath the waves, which would have spelt the end for the crew as the upper hatch was open and would have allowed the U-boat to completely flood with water. Under Kretsch's orders, the men continued their barrage of ammunition until it finally released its grip on the forward gun mount and sank back into the midnight waters. Kretsch and the whole crew breathed a sigh of relief until they noticed that the upper decking had been damaged, rendering the submarine completely unable to submerge, meaning they were now sitting ducks. Poor thing was demoted from a submarine to just a marine. This explained why the Cryptid was able to see and capture the crew members on the UB-85. Kretsch's story was then reinforced by his own crew, which was kind of a big deal. All of their testimonies were logged by the British crew on the British patrol boat just a couple hours later. The UB-85 was cleared of any possible other crew members on the boat, and then the Cryptid sank it. In October of 2016, some engineers working on an underwater electrical cable came across the wreckage of a U-boat that is believed to either be the U-82 or the 85, but it's apparently still undetermined, and as far as I can tell, nobody has gone down to explore it. So what was this monstrous creature? Where did it come from? It doesn't seem to fit the stereotypical sea monster image that were given by other legendary monster stories. Kretsch says that this thing climbed onto the vessel and that it was holding on to the forward gun mount. That makes it sound like it had hands of some sort. Now, is this thing just a one-off occurrence? Has it only been seen the one time? Or have there been multiple reports of it? That's a good question there, and at first glance it seems like this is the only time it's been seen. But then, turns out, during World War I by another German U-boat, there was another interesting creature spotted. Freier George G. von Horstner was a commander on U-boat 28. On July 30th, 1915, the UB-28 torpedoed a British steamer, which was carrying cargo across the North Atlantic Ocean. The steamer sank very, very quickly, causing its bow to angle upwards almost completely vertically as it sank beneath the water. Within moments, it was completely submerged. The vessel sat beneath the waves for approximately 25 seconds before it violently exploded, sending shrapnel, debris, and a massive 60-foot-long sea beast into the air. Horstner stated, "At that moment, I had with me in the conning tower 6 of my officers of the watch, including the chief engineer, the navigator, and the helmsman. Simultaneously, we all drew one another's attention to this wonder of the seas, which was writhing and struggling among the debris. We were unable to identify the creature, but all of us agreed that it resembled an aquatic crocodile, which was about 60 feet long and a head which also tapered to a point. Unfortunately, we were not able to take a photograph, for the animal sank out of sight after 10 or 15 seconds. Horstner had written this in an official log, which lended the story credibility because he had no incentive to make up such a tall tale. Why the beast was blasted into the air is a highly debated topic. Some say that it just happened to swim over the boat right after it sank and the explosion launched it, but that's very odd considering that sea life, or animals in general, generally don't like the very loud sound of motors, and they will flee any area that they know a motorcraft is nearby. The other theory is that, for whatever reason, this British steamer was transporting the creature across the northern Atlantic Ocean, which brings up a whole new slurry of questions because how did they get it? Where'd they get it from? Why do they still have it? Why didn't they kill it? Where are they taking it? Like, what's going on if they're actually transporting that thing? However, I do just have to say, if this is the same creature, it seems to like loud noises, doesn't it? Because, like, it came to this sinking boat that had just been exploded by a torpedo, and then 3 years later, with the UB-85, it comes up to this thing while it has its diesel engines running on the surface of the water, and it climbs aboard. So perhaps this thing is actually attracted to loud noises. Maybe it's learned that humans live on these motorcraft, and so whenever it hears them, it seeks them out. And that's how it could have swam above UB-28 before it exploded. It also fits the description of having the hands to be able to grab onto the forward gun mount of UB-85, and the teeth, because like crocodilian stuff is gonna have teeth, especially still hanging out of their snouts. You're gonna be able to see them glistening in the moonlight. So what do you think? Were these the same creatures? Were they completely separate incidents? Was the British doing something really weird and conspicuous with one of these creatures? Or is it all bogus, some story told by a couple of nutcase German captains during World War I? You tell me, but I have my own opinion, but you tell me in the comments. Alright guys, that's gonna do it for this video. This was the atrocity of UB-85. Let me know what you thought down below. If you've got any other suggestions of cryptids, weird stories, or just anything really, make sure and leave it in the comments. I do check those out, and I would love some video ideas from you guys. Leave a like if you thought this video was interesting or entertaining. I really appreciate it. It helps push me out in the algorithm so that other people who will like it will see it. If you wouldn't mind, we're trying to hit 500 subscribers by the end of 2025. I would love it if you could stick around. You'll get to be one of the OGs of this channel before I get big. you will get bragging rights, and I will 110% be on your side with those bragging rights. So gatekeep me all you want. Anyways, I think that's just about everything, so I'm just gonna say Ratman out.